And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. And just to report out of closed, CEO McNeely, we're going to discuss about a contract person being hired from April to September to replace a staff on leave, correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor, there was an actual resolution for council to consider reporting out from closed session.
I do have that motion, Mayor Foxton, if you'd like me to read it.
Please do.
So moved by Councillor Ossner and seconded by Councillor McCreary that the Chief Administrative Officer may recruit and hire a temporary facility operator for the equivalent of 40 hours per week as a backfill position for a maximum time period of up to 6 months and not to extend beyond the end of September of 2022. Councillor Roman?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. And I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 27th teleconference video conferencing council meeting. It is due to COVID-19 and recommendations by Waterloo Regional Public Board of Health that Township Council's meetings are currently being held electronically. Members of the public have been provided with the following methods to watch or participate in this open meeting electronically. First, you can watch it live stream by accessing the meeting on the Township's YouTube page. Secondly, members of the public interested in speaking to any item were able to submit the request in writing to the Clerk's Division. A link and telephone number has been provided to those who registered before the registration deadline. And thirdly, members of the public interested in commenting on a particular item were invited to submit the written comments to the Clerk's Division that were provided to the Mayor, Clerk, and Council prior to the meeting and will form part of the public record. Can I have approval of the agenda, please?
Moved by Councillor Rowland and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that Council adopt the February 22nd, 2022 regular Council agenda as presented with the following addendums. 1, add item 12.6, correspondence received from the Region of Waterloo Public Health and Emergency Services requesting permission to access lands owned by the Township to conduct mosquito larval surveillance. And 2, that the correspondence in item 12.1, the DAMN Campaign Reform Gravel Mining Coalition be considered with a delegation from Karen Scott Booth as set out in agenda item 10.3. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. Now I'd like to do the Indigenous Territory Acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between the Indigenous and non-Indigenous people of Canada. Now I'd like to pause for a few minutes as we can reflect on our past, on our present as we learn and go forward, and hopefully moving together into our future. Thank you very much. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. There's no presentation. Delegation from Brent Barber regarding outdoor amenities availability during the winter months. If we could allow Brent in, there he is.
Hello?
Go ahead, Brent, you're up.
Okay, good. All right, so what I want to talk about is outdoor winter recreation in North Dumfries. Oops, hold on. And so it seems like North Dumfries has a big focus on summer recreation and providing like the soccer fields, baseball, all that stuff, indoor winter recreation with the hockey and the pickleball, yoga. But there's very little focus on providing things to do outdoors in the winter time. And this has become a big issue, particularly because of COVID the last couple of years. And I tried communicating with North Dumfries Recreation last winter, suggesting we do this. And it seemed like the attitude of North Dumfries was we have to minimize risk as our first priority. And that doesn't seem like the right approach. I was told all off-road trail systems are closed for the winter season. They are not maintained, and as such, the township's insurance cooperative indicates that because we do not maintain them, i.e. clear them of snow and ice and groom the ruts out as required, they should not be utilized and should be signed to inform patrons accordingly. So focusing on the insurance. And then I asked for more details, and I was told the issue isn't as simple as changing the insurance coverage. It's staffing, it's damage to the amenities, it's unsafe in many ways. In my experience and training, the best way to reduce risk is to eliminate it if you can. I'm sure Kitchener would close their trails if they could. So, and when I went on to check on Kitchener, Kitchener keeps all their trails open and encourages people to use them. And we do have trails around the area, like out North Dumfries and at Pinehurst and with GRCA, but we actually don't have any trails in the town of Ayr for people to use in the wintertime because Piper's Park is pretty much shut down. And what that encourages people to drive out of the city, we're bad for the environment, and it's not accessible for people who are in town either. So we need to think about making it easier for people to do this stuff. Demand for outdoor activities is certainly very high. I was told as well, this concern comes up every year. So it's not like this is a one-time thing. It's every year it seems to be an issue. And I'm sure you've been out and about this year and you've seen things like Bannister Lake had, I think, over 60 people on it the one day with people playing hockey and skating and ice fishing. Like Dryden Tract and Sun Tract, the cars have been overflowing out onto the roads on the weekends because people want stuff to do. Yesterday for Family Day, we went to Piper's Park and there was over 20 cars parked on the road, blocking traffic for everybody. And the park was full of people trying to do all these things. Victoria Park, for some reason, we block that road off and don't make it accessible for people to use in the wintertime. And I mean, it doesn't really make any sense. We're plowing that road. Why not do it? And like when we were kids, we would go shovel out tennis courts and play road hockey there. Maybe some kids want to do that there, but they're being kept out because we're not making it accessible to people. And then finally, the skateboard park. There was a teenager on Facebook on January 23rd. He's like, I have a question. I'm getting yelled at for skateboarding on the sidewalk. And then I'm getting yelled at for skateboarding on the road. What am I supposed to do? Well, we have a skate park. All of the other skate parks in the area are open, but ours is closed. So, and then I asked on Facebook as well, what other things people would be interested in. And there seems to be a huge demand for outdoor rinks. Now, I don't know if that's just because of COVID and because we had to shut down the ice last winter and this winter for some, but there certainly seems to be a lot of interest in doing something like that. So what I did is I went and looked at the other communities in the region, Waterloo region, and within Waterloo has over 32 outdoor ice rinks in their city. Kitchener has over 30. All of the skate parks are open all winter. Some of them may be maintained, I'm not sure. All of the trails in Kitchener are open for the winter. And a few years ago, you probably saw they closed 16 parks for the winter, and then shortly after reopened because of complaints. And they said staff agreed to remove the barriers and put up signs that the parking lots and trails aren't maintained in the winter. The blocks were removed and people can now drive into the lots, although the signs say they're closed for the season. And one of their counselors, Jeff Henry, said, the city has posted signs warning users there's no winter maintenance on several of its trails, which we find more than sufficient to caution users about their conditions. So they're opening up their trails, letting people use them and not having insurance worries like we seem to have. University of Waterloo this week, they had put up no trespassing signs for their trails around the lake for the first year. And they had some complaints and concerns, and they've decided, yes, that was wrong to do no trespassing. And they're just going to go back to putting warning signs on the trail saying the trails are unmaintained. Because people know an unmaintained trail is you're using it at your own risk. So then I went to looked at other communities to see if there are other communities having the same type of issues as us. And like Halton Parks in Milton, they've got like Rattlesnake Point open and all their trails, which are far more dangerous than the trail at Cowan Park, which we close. And they have no issues. They have the parking lots open. They're charging people to go, making it accessible. I contacted London. Their skate parks are open all winter. As far as the outdoor rinks go, like Wilmot Township has 4 outdoor rinks. Brant County has 5 outdoor rinks. Even Drumbo has an outdoor rink. And we, as far as I know, we have no outdoor rinks anymore. When COVID started, Toronto built 60 kilometers of new trails to help get people outside during the winter to make the most of it. And it just seems to be like a better attitude than we just don't want people to use the stuff that we have. This year too, for example, down at Dune Golf Course in Kitchener, somebody has gone through and plowed nice wide, like probably 15-foot wide trails all through the golf course. So people can walk or ski and have a nice walk. You're not on the sidewalk with people getting splashed or slipping. You're away from the cars, you're away from the noise. It's just a much nicer thing to offer people. And again, no risk or no issue offering that. And I did look quite a bit, and I honestly could not find one other community anywhere in Ontario. I didn't look everywhere, but everywhere I looked, nobody else closed their trails like we did. Nobody else closed their skate parks, and nobody else closed their playgrounds like we're doing at Cowan Park as well. Now, I don't know how much they would get used, but you know, this year and last year for sure, it would have been used a lot. So when I look at it, I think, okay, there's demand in the community for this stuff, especially during COVID, but even in general, there's demand. Based on what other governments are doing, it seems like a service that we should be providing more Dumfries to the community. I think there's low costs and easy wins to start the process, like just unlocking Cowan Park. We don't have to open the washrooms. Like you go to Pinehurst, which is run by Grand River. I mean, sometimes the washrooms are open, but sometimes they're not. If you're worried about people, you know, damaging facilities, don't open that stuff up. And if kids want to use the skate park, let them shovel the skate park or just shovel off the top. It's not going to do any damage to the facility to have that available. So we got that. And then I think a little longer term, we need to like take a look at all of the facilities that we have in North Dumfries, because you know them all, I don't know them all, and try and figure out which ones would make sense to be open in the winter time to let people take advantage of. And if we can get some open this season, like Cowan Park, or I guess it's probably hard to move those cement blocks now, but you know, to try and get some of these other things open. And then, excuse me, longer term, we can look at things like hockey. The other cities who did have outdoor hockey, it seemed all the work was done by volunteers, and maybe there's an interest in doing that here, maybe not. I'm not a hockey guy, so I don't know. And yeah, and I know we also did the recreation survey, but hopefully in that survey, we also considered things like this when we're coming up with the plan. So yeah, I think it's, yeah, like I said, doesn't need to be high cost. We've got a lot of this stuff available. Let's just make it more accessible. I mean, it would have been great to have done this 2 years ago when COVID started, and I really think we should have, but we missed that opportunity. But we still have the opportunity going forward, and people will use these things, and maybe we have COVID again next year, who knows? So let's hope not, but if we do, then it would be great to be ready to deal with that. And that's all I really had to say. Whoops. I can't hear anybody. Hold on for 1 sec.
Mayor Foxton, you're on mute.
My apologies. Thank you. Thank you, Brent.
No problem.
I said you used 9 out of your 10 minutes, so that was very good.
Perfect.
Councilors, there's no questions, comments? Okay. Councilor Rowland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with a lot of what Brent's saying. Lots of residents have contacted me about, you know, Victoria Park, for example, you know, plowing a pedestrian path through there in the wintertime. So I'm wondering, is it appropriate for staff to prepare a report for us that would show potential for 4-season operation of parks, including outdoor trails in the wintertime, maybe looking at potential for outdoor rink space, and what would the costs be associated with that, the staffing costs, and also the potential liability risk costs, and how we can mitigate that. If we had a report from perhaps Karen Winter outlining potential like that, maybe council could look at that and have in place for next year.
CEO McNeely?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Councillor Rowland. At the last council meeting, we were directed by council to return with a report looking at, and it was specific to winter season in our parks, to expand those opportunities for programming or access to interior portions of the parks or trail systems. So Ms. Winter is working on that assignment. And as part of that, we'll be outlining what is in this year's capital budget that will actually facilitate some of those outdoor recreational amenities, whether it be lighting or access to a secure water source, if we were looking at, as an example, skating rinks. But we'll be talking, as part of that budget, different delivery models. Mr. Barber quite correctly identified, in most of those municipalities, those outdoor skating rinks are maintained by the neighborhood, but they have access to hoses and obviously the place or the platform where the community rink could be installed. So all of those items, along with a costing model, will be contained in Ms. Winter's report to Township Council.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. Councillor Ossner?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to mention that when Brent was talking about the different cities and stuff like that, my lab's at the Frederick Street Mall, and there's a park right beside that, and the tennis courts that are there in the winter are actually ice skating. In the summer, they do tennis and pickleball, I believe, there. But in the winter, they have an ice surface, and when it was cold, every time I came out, it was like all during the day and up till I'd leave at 6 or whatever. It was well attended and busy. So yeah, I do believe we can do an awful lot better on availabilities. A lot of people have asked about outdoor rinks. And maybe that's a good way to keep them off the catch basins and stuff, if we provide something that might be a little safer and a little bit more local, where the kids can just walk to and the parents don't have to worry if they're going to fall through the ice or not.
Thank you, Councillor Austin. No one else, no other comments? Ms. Sage, we have a resolution.
Yes, we do. So moved by Councillor Ossner and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that the delegation from Brent Barber regarding outdoor amenities available during the winter months be received, and that Mr. Barber's comments be referred to the Director of Leisure and Community Services for consideration as part of the upcoming staff report to Council scheduled for April 11th, 2022 on outdoor amenities in the winter months. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. Thanks, Brent. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. You too.
And Ms. Sage, Ms. Hyssop, you'll let me know when you've moved people in and out.
Will do.
Thank you.
Okay, Tamaya should be coming in now.
Thank you. Welcome to Mia. You have 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Foxton and council members. I'm Tamaya. I am the owner and operator of Here to There Market Events, and I am here today requesting approval to implement the plans outlined in our proposal for a farmers market that would run from May to October in the 2022 calendar year at the North Dumfries Community Complex. And I will just touch on some of the key points from the proposal. So the location would be the West Wing parking lot, specifically at the North Dumfries Community Complex, from the months of May to October, although we would be working directly with the farmers, and based on their feedback, it might possibly be beginning of June, depending on what their season looks like and when a better time based on their availability of products would be. It would be on Saturdays, and the frequency is still to be determined. We are requesting that it would be that we have allowance to do every Saturday with a minimum of once a month. And at this point, we are kind of leaning towards every other week just to see how the community involvement is and see how people respond to it, including the farmers, see how much interest there is. Times would be approximately 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and there would be 1 hour before and after the event for setup and cleanup. The majority of the vendors would be local farms, and we would aim to have about 70% of the participants to be farms and farmers. And then we would have some additional spaces for small businesses or artists and vendors as well. And it would be an outdoor only event. And the vendors would be encouraged to have tents. Here to Their Market events will make sure that the tent spacing and the size of the tents is always following the building code and regulations. As far as space goes, we think that we could comfortably fit 25 vendors. However, this doesn't mean that we would necessarily accept 25 vendors for every week. It could be possible that some farmers would like to have more than one space. And we also anticipate that participation could fluctuate. Some weeks we may have higher attendance, some weeks lower attendance. And then there was also just 2 notes about what I had written in the proposal. One was about the insurance. I had misunderstood the township insurance, and I wrote in there that we would ask to be part of the insurance pool. I have been informed that that is not actually an option. So regardless of what insurance company is utilized, Here to Their Market events and all vendors that participate will always have insurance for any days that they are there. And then the other one was the electricity and water. I was not aware if there was any access to electricity or water at the location. I have since been informed that there isn't, but farmers do have the potential of bringing their own generators if that is available for them or if they need it. Most of the vendors we anticipate would not need any additional water or electricity.
Thank you. Any questions, councilors? Councilor Osner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tamara, is it any consideration of doing this downtown by the pond in the park where the pavilion is and utilizing that parking lot? I'm just thinking in the way of more of an ambiance setting type thing, that if people are going to buy some food, they may, excuse me, sit under the trees to eat. They might be more apt to hang around longer. I understand a lot of farmer markets are on, parking lots and stuff like that. I was thinking that if there was consideration, that was my first question. My second question is, are you going to bring in any kind of a vendor that would have fresh meats like salami, charcuterie, cheese, bread, all that sort of stuff to complement vegetables and fruit type thing?
Yes. So actually, one of our first locations that we had hoped to have the market at was the Centennial Park. But unfortunately, I was reminded that it is very heavily populated with geese, exactly during the times of when we would like to run our farmers market. So a big reason for that was health concerns that I chose not to go with that area. However, if there is a downtown location that the township would allow us to use, that would be more fitting. One of the locations that I had considered as well was the Air Community Complex parking lot, which would be a good size, but I'm not sure if that would have any issues with potential sports that run there on the weekends or camps and things like that. And then as well, the parking lot specifically that you had mentioned near the Centennial Park, I would also be very happy to consider that. The only issue with that was that I didn't know who owned it, or so who I would need to speak to for permissions there. And then as well, I'm not sure where participants would park, including vendors, like if there'd be enough space for anybody to park. I mean, ideally, it would be great if people could walk to the event, but not everybody will have that available. And then as far as the other question, yeah, we did contact Magnolia Meats, for instance, and there was a couple farms that have honey and jams and preserves and things like that. So all of those would be welcome, assuming that they are able to bring their products,
Or coolers and stuff.
according to the health code. Yeah. So as long as whatever they're selling, they are able to maintain the health standards, then absolutely they would also be welcome to be part of the event.
Thank you. Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Oster stole most of my ideas, but I like the idea of downtown. I was thinking actually of closing, if we could close Church Street between Piper and over to William, just in front of the ACC, then we could actually have the vendors on the road there at Church Street. People could park at the Air News parking lot, or they could park at the west parking lot of the ACC, and that would give us a nice little sort of street market right on Church Street, right in front of the ACC. There's power and water at the ACC. There's washrooms in there too, so maybe something could be worked out. I like the idea of it having it in the town. It's a little more interesting than being at a parking lot out at the NDCC. So hopefully staff can find some way to make this work.
Thank you, Councillor Mullivan. Seeing no other questions, I have a few comments. I wasn't really comfortable on the west lot of the NDCC, and I'll tell you why. The community gardens are right there. People work on their gardens on the weekend. If you've got vendors selling things, what's to stop people from going in and taking the food from the community gardens? And who would supervise that? That could be a problem. You may conflict with other events going on at the NDCC, especially tournaments and stuff like that, or the other sporting events, like the soccer tournaments, and the volleyball's right there as well. And also access to the washroom. So that would be a concern. I like the idea of what you said, Councillor Rowland and Councillor Oster. I like the idea of the ACC. It sounds like it would meet a lot of things that she requires as well. But if we open up the facility, that means we have to have staff there. So we're talking about staffing it from 7 to 2 every day because of the use of the washrooms and things like that. Or is that right? Am I, Councillor Austin, go ahead. Councillor Austin, then CAO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The other thing, the other place that would be great, there's lots of room at Victoria Park when you come in towards the outer ring of Victoria Park. I'm just looking for somewhere that is more comfortable, I guess you could say, considering you're going to be there for the summer. You got lots of shade or trees. I'm just looking for somewhere that, you know, people can just sit and enjoy themselves. And when you have people sitting there and enjoying themselves, they're going to spend more money. If you're in a parking lot out at the NDCC, you know, people are going to whip in on the way home, or whip in on the way out, or whip in while they're taking their kids to this or that, or they're going to come in, they're going to go, they're going to look around. They're not going to want to stay there because they're under the blistering sun. They're not underneath the tent. So I'm just thinking, you know, I love the idea of a market. We've always talked about it. I'd like to have it somewhere closer to downtown, because that's the other thing we want to do. We want to bring more people into the town rather than the perimeter of the town. Bring them into town, let them see let them see how nice this town is.
CEO McNeely.
So, Madam Mayor, staff has been very supportive of the idea of the farmers market. As Councillor Oster just identified, there's been some attempts over the years to introduce a farmers market, but it really has never had the staying power. I know Ms. Brenner has been involved in some other outdoor related events elsewhere in the downtown area and has had success to date. So I know that she'll bring that energy and passion to this project, and that in itself, with that staying power, I'm sure will lead to some success. if council's looking at a downtown location, my preference would be to have it at the ACC, whether it be in the west parking lot, or if council were to entertain a future bylaw to temporarily close a portion of Church Street from the Piper Street intersection to the approximate location of the driveway that provides access to the west parking lot. And given the width of the road surface there, we could double stack the vendors on both sides of the paved portion of the road. And then the public could walk up and down effectively what would be the center line. The washrooms, to Madam Mayor's point, yes, we'd have to unlock the ACC typically during the May to early September time period. The building is typically closed, but certainly we could look at opening up a portion of the ACC so that the public would have access to washrooms. That is one of the key disadvantages of looking at either the Gibson Street parking lot or Centennial Park, is that there is no washroom facilities that are available to the public, which is somewhat offset by using the ACC venue. Similar to the NDCC, you're on a hard surface. So if it's raining out, we don't have to worry about mud or people getting tracking mud through grass and whatever. You've got a level surface. So people that have barrier-free related issues, there's a good, consistent pathway of travel. So in that respect, it also ticks all the appropriate boxes if we want to have a broad and inclusive opportunity for the market. So the resolution that was crafted spoke to the NDCC. Perhaps if council's agreeable, if Ms. Brenner would be excited about locating downtown and specifically in proximity to the ACC, if we could perhaps reframe the resolution to provide some direction to Ms. Brenner as she starts developing her business plan. And instead of focusing perhaps on the NDCC West parking lot, that staff be directed to work with Ms. Brenner on an option of utilizing Church Street for those Saturdays from May through October for the purposes of the farmers market, including interior access to the ACC for public washroom access. We would then return back with a report to council talking about, the road closure bylaws to allow that to happen. And then obviously coordination with our public works and rec staff, because now we'd be moving certain highway traffic barriers down to close the road to ensure that we've got proper safety for a pedestrian way on that portion of Church Street, as well as coordinating our future shifts and segregating access into portions of the ACC.
Ms. Brenner, how do you feel about that? Are you comfortable with Church Street and the ACC? Are you aware of those two locations, that location?
Yes. Actually, those had been, the ACC had been my first choice, the parking lot specifically. And at one point I did have the idea of, wow, it would be great if we could block off the street, but I didn't know if that would ever be a possibility with houses and regulations and whatnot. So I would be very amenable to working on that plan.
And that's the only concern is the houses we're blocking off, CO McNeely. I'm concerned about Bob Marshall's house and Holloran's house. If we could allow them to get out on Saturdays, that would be nice. But those are the only two that are concerned there.
So Madam Mayor, if we were to close it off right at the intersection of Piper Church, and it was closed through to the access driveway into the ACC West parking lot, there are no homes that front it. So any residents that want to either get into, I'm going to call it the broader Church, Water, Colonial, Walter neighborhood, they would have to continue down Piper Street to Walter Street, and then double back onto either Church or migrate down to Colonial via Walter Street or William Street.
Okay, so if we redid this motion, I would say that the delegation from Tamea Brenner with here to their market events Inc., requesting approval for the outdoor farmers market on May to October 2022 at the ACC.
Well, what I would like to, I think it'd be best if we could actually meet with Miss Brenner down there, just so spatially she could satisfy herself that if we were to look at Church Street, that spatially it works for her. Alternatively, if that doesn't, then we would look at the west parking lot. So I'm just, if council would just be flexible enough right now to talk about just the ACC precinct, understanding that we're looking at both the parking lot and or Church Street, and including interior access for the purpose of public access to washroom facilities at the ACC. We would be coming back with a future report to Township Council to firm up the details. But at a minimum, we're looking at the Saturdays, May through October 2022, from, I guess, 7:30 a.m. to 2 o'clock or approximate for this. And staff would return with a further report to council on this matter.
So Ms. Sage, did you get what the motion he just stated in that last two sentences?
I did, yes. I've reworked something to that effect.
Okay, could I hear it, please?
So moved by Councillor Rolleman and seconded by Councillor McCreary, that the delegation from Tamea Brenner with Here to There Market Events Incorporated requesting approval for an outdoor farmers market from May to October 2022 be received with thanks, and that staff be directed to work with Ms. Brenner to hold the Here to There Market Events Incorporated to operate an outdoor farmers market on Saturdays within the timeframe of 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. from May to October 2022 to be located at the ACC, and return with a follow-up report that includes a bylaw to temporarily close Church Street.
Is that okay, Ms. Brenner? I know down in this motion it says 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
That's okay. We're very flexible on everything.
Okay. All right. So with that motion in the passive, do you want to call for the vote, please?
Certainly. So Councillor Rolleman,
Yes.
Councillor Rossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes.
That carries.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
I can hardly wait to shop. Actually, are we hearing Karen Scott Booth at the same time as we're hearing Mary? Is that her name, Mary?
Yes, Mary Ann Young.
Mary Ann Young. Thank you. So they're together, basically?
Yes, and
Thank
Dr.
you.
Paul.
Thank you.
All right. So I can see that, I'll just turn my video on. Hey, I'm Mary Ann Young, and with me, I've got Karen Scott Booth and Dr. Paul Westacott. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started.
You have 10 minutes.
Thank you. I'm not going to put it in presentation mode because I was testing this beforehand and it's working a little bit oddly with this particular Zoom meeting. So we're going to leave it in this presentation. So we are the North Dumfries Conservation Alliance, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Paul Westacott.
Hey, who are we? We are your neighbours, the residents of North Dumfries Township, citizens who value and appreciate the lands we share. We are ratepayers in this township and concerned residents who are increasing in numbers and incorporating as a community organisation, born out of our common concern, as well as our goal for the conservation and preservation of our significant natural environment. I just have to adjust my screen here. I have a partial screen only. A peaceful retreat within the countryside charm of rolling hills, ponds, rivers, and trails that make up North Dumfries, with a history rich in historical charm, heritage buildings, and community parks.
And that's an excerpt from the township website. And collectively, our small group of neighbors are the stewards of more than 1,000 acres of the lands in North Dumfries. So these lands lie within the Galt Paris moraine, surrounded by the Dryden Tract and the Sudden Tract. And these are rare Carolinian forests, significant wetlands, and include hundreds of acres of prime farmlands. And all are at risk. I've got a video that I'm going to play for you.
We're in too deep. For decades, the gravel mining industry has blasted, dug, crushed, and trucked across Ontario with apparent impunity. And we've let them. Year after year, the leaders we've given the job of protecting our province to have handed them the shovels and said, go, dig more. Go dig over 5,000 enormous sites in our backyards. Go dig out 13 times more gravel every year than what we use. Go destroy 5,000 acres of land a year and take up to 4.6 billion liters of precious water every day. Go destroy the natural environment and damage our communities while paying less property tax than some single families do. Go accelerate the climate crisis by feeding sprawl, highways, cement production, transportation, and other massive causes of greenhouse gases. And finally, go do it all without any consent of First Nations, as our Constitution says you must. It's already too late for some communities. Those who bravely fought the impossible David versus Goliath battles, they rarely had a chance to win. This multinational, foreign-owned industry is so unchecked and self-regulated and so deep-pocketed that the moment you try to stop one site, another appears somewhere else. So we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to say enough. No more new sites, period. We, people of Ontario, demand that our government impose an immediate moratorium on all new gravel mining until an independent panel can chart a new path. One that will honor First Nations treaties and obligations, prevent more climate destruction, protect groundwater and endangered species, and give the communities dealing with these sites more say in how land use is decided. Sign the petition to demand a moratorium now at reformgravelmining.ca.
Karen, over to you.
In January 25th, 2022, the Reform Gravel Mining Coalition announced a call for a moratorium on all new gravel pit applications in Ontario. Sandy Shaw, NDP Environment Critic, and Mike Schreiner, Green Party of Ontario leader, pledged their party's support for a pause on all new gravel mining approvals. And I quote, "The Ontario Greens strongly support a moratorium on new gravel mining permits. We can't continue to destroy the farmland that feeds us and threaten the water that sustains us. Ontario desperately needs stronger regulations of gravel mining to protect people, communities, and the places we love." Organizers of the Reform Gravel Mining Coalition say the industry has enough sites to meet demand and that further expansion of quarries damages ecosystems and threatens endangered species. The Reform Gravel Mining Coalition is a coalition of environmental groups, including the Environmental Defence, the Wilderness Committee, Wellington Water Watchers, and the Council of Canadians. We, your citizens of North Dumfries, respectfully request that our Township Council support this call and follow the lead of the town of Halton Hills, who recently passed a formal declaration in support of the Dam campaign. Demand a moratorium now. But in addition to that formal declaration, we are asking for even more.
We ask that our Township Council take a stand. As one of the top aggregate producing municipalities in Ontario, we ask that North Dumfries Township Council, as the elected representatives of the citizens, ratepayers of the Township of North Dumfries, declare a moratorium within the municipality of the Township of North Dumfries. No new pits until.
And we ask you, our Township Council, to stand with us.
We all place ourselves in danger to one degree or another when we stand up, but we place our children and our grandchildren in even greater danger when we don't. We thank you for your time and consideration of this important request.
And that is the end of our presentation.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions or comments? Seeing none, you realize moratoriums can't be done by councils. The moratoriums are done by province. And so we have a motion here that we are sending to the province. If council passes this tonight, it'll be a motion endorsing the moratorium. We can do an interim bylaw for 2 years, but we have to justify it and we have to show justification for it. And it has to be approved. Councilor McCreary.
Thanks, Mayor Foxton. Yes, I'd like the council to support the work of this group, particularly the Demand a Moratorium Now group. I think it's very important that the provincial government hear voices coming from multiple sources. The municipality through TAPMO, the Top Aggregate Producing Committee, like we're doing our work and working from a government to government level, but I think that the province needs to really hear voices directly from the voters. They have been actually quite unresponsive of late over the last few years. Things have changed. There's really been a swing towards the industry, pro-industry, and I think that we really need to pull that back. So I would like to see us supporting the work of the, I guess they call it DAM group, and support a similar motion to what Halton Hills has supported. But as far as the township doing a moratorium itself, that would take some planning on our part. We'd have to budget some money. We'd have to figure out what we were going to study, hire a consultant to do it. So it's not as easy for us to do, but certainly we would support the province-wide, or I would like us to support the province-wide moratorium. Thanks.
Councilwoman.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councilor McCreary. I think it's time that we, if we can, put some sort of pause on all these gravel pits. We have a lot of pits being proposed. There's a lot of pits that still have not been resolved in terms of, closing up those pits and being rejuvenated, rehabilitated. We're still dealing with that issue. Maybe it's time that we say to the gravel industry, we want to pause, we want to re-examine all these things. So whatever means we have available, I think we should explore them, whether if it's a moratorium or not, or some sort of temporary pause like they've done in Zora Township or they've done in Halton Hills. We should be exploring these opportunities and seeing what we can do just to re-examine where we're going with all these gravel pits.
Councilor Osner.
I agree with the other councillors on this, that we do need to look at this. It's always been a sore spot with us on council, and being relatively powerless when it comes to making the decisions on where these gravel pits just keep going and going. However, that being said, I do want to see how this proposed motion is going to be written up. I don't know if we have it written up tonight or what. I'd like to see how this is going to go in moving it the proper way. I don't want to, get the banners out and sis boom bah rah 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 right now until we know we can do something. If we're going to do something, I want to ensure that we are able to do something and do it the right way. As you said, Mayor Foxton, we can't decide on a moratorium. The province decides, but I want to know what we can do to put some teeth behind it so that we can actually get something done with the province.
So we can request the moratorium, which is what we are going to do tonight. And the motion we're going to read, we can insist that it go to all the municipalities in Waterloo Region and beyond, and actually go to AMO. AMO is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, so that this motion would be seen by all municipalities. Then if I gave you any direction at all, I would tell you, to each of you, in every way that you go, have letters sent to your MPPs. Backing this, saying MPPs, because they're the ones that decide on the moratorium. Push for them to do this and use the facts and figures that were given to TAPMO. I sit on the TAPMO executive as well, and I'm the past chair. And the figures were phenomenal. The aggregate industry keeps saying they need more, and yet every year they've used actually less. So this is greed. And the number of licenses out there that are dormant, that have never been opened. And again, I say the Wilmot one that everybody's fighting right now, and it's surrounded by, I thought it was 10, it's only 7 pits. They've had their license for 10 years and none of those pits are open yet because they don't need it. Because they don't want to flood the area with gravel because that brings the price down. Nor could our roads and the additional trucks take it. So you need the people to outcry because this government listens to the people more than they listen to anybody else. So you need to really hit hard with the public and say, do this. But I'm going to see Councillor Ostner's thing, and then I want you to hear the motion. Ms. Sage, I'll ask you to read it in its entirety and read it slowly so we understand it. Councillor Ostner.
I was just going to add to your comment saying that I feel that what these gravel companies do is they want to get as many plans approved as possible, because I think that they see that at some point the pressure is going to mount so high that they're going to have to shut it down. And so their application after application after application, let's pass this through, get it through. And then all of a sudden, okay, there's a moratorium. Well, that's okay, because we just put 4 pits through that we would have put through in the next 15 years anyway. So that's, I think, why we're getting, all these pit applications and stuff, because they're trying to get it through before something actually gets done. So, the quicker we can get this done, the better.
But you have to remember that a licensed pit doesn't have to start working right away. And a moratorium doesn't affect a licensed pit. So those 7 pits in Wilmot that haven't done anything for 10 years can still open anytime they want. But you, the people, have to be the voice. You have to, and Zorro Township did an interim bylaw for 2 years. And the mayor of Zorro also sits on TAPMO with us. And he was talking about that, how difficult it was, and they couldn't go any further. So you know what, this is an election year. This is the time when they're gonna really start to listen to your voice, because they're afraid they won't get reelected. So be a strong voice. And then the municipalities will come back, hopefully with the motions. And Ms. Sage, if you could read that motion now, please.
Certainly. So moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Gillespie. Whereas Ontario currently has 3,600 licenses and 2,500 permits held by operators located throughout the province that are able to meet the expected near-term needs of Ontario's construction industry. And whereas in 2020, there were approximately 5,677,296 tons of aggregate extracted from properties located within the township of North Dumfries. And whereas applications continue to be submitted without a definitive determination if there is a need for additional supply. And whereas gravel pits and quarries can be destructive of natural environments and habitats when not properly planned and managed. And whereas pits and quarries have negative social impacts on host communities in terms of noise, air pollution, and truck traffic. And whereas the current need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in order to combat climate change has brought awareness to the very high carbon footprint associated with the production of concrete and asphalt, which are major end users of aggregates. And therefore be it resolved that the province of Ontario be requested to impose an immediate temporary moratorium on all new gravel applications, including expansions to existing licensed sites, pending a broad consultation process that would include First Nations, affected communities, independent experts and scientists to chart a new path forward for the extraction and processing of aggregates in Ontario, which one, proposes criteria and processes for determining the need for new aggregate licenses, including the expansion to existing licenses. 2, recommends updated policies and restrictions for aggregate extractions below the water table to reflect current groundwater sciences. 3, assesses the cumulative impact of aggregate operations in terms of offsite impacts to environmental systems, the groundwater regime, and base flow contributions to area water courses, wetlands, etc., areas habited, including corridors, traffic along haul routes, and dust and noise emissions. 4, develops new guidelines for reprocessing, recycling of concrete and asphalt products in order to ensure sustainable aggregate supplies. 5, recommends a fair levy for aggregate extraction that includes compensation for the full environmental and infrastructure maintenance costs to the local community of extraction and distribution of aggregate. 6, provides greater weight to the input by local municipalities to lessen the social impacts from aggregate extraction and truck haul routes through their communities. And further, a copy of this resolution be sent to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the leaders of all provincial parties, the Minister of Northern Development, Mines and Natural Resources and Forestry, the MPPs of Waterloo Region and the Region of Waterloo. Councillor Rolleman?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Let your voice be strong, folks.
Thank you.
We'll do our job. We need you to do
Very
yours.
much.
We will.
Good luck.
Thank you.
It's an election year. Use it. Use it. It should be a main election point. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
We good to go now, Ashley and Cynthia?
Yep.
Okay, so we're at 11.1, Committee of the Whole. So this is the, we're finalizing the special area rate, report area special area rate. The mobile food truck vendors, I don't want Cynthia to read all the pages. The tennis court facilities, Skateboard Park, mobile food vendors. That should be it, ABC. Okay. Any questions, councilors, before we move this? Ms. Sage, you do not have to read it in its entirety.
So moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Ossner that council adopt the following recommendations as listed on the agenda as presented by Committee of the Whole dated February 7th, 2022. Item A, report number FIN-05-2022, the 2022 air special area rate as presented. Report Rec-01-2022, the 3-lit tennis court facility in Schmidt Park as presented, and report CLK-03-2022, discussion paper on the mobile food vendor bylaw review as presented. Councillor Rolleman?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. And next, 11.2, which is the different minutes of the meetings. So do you want to read that motion, Ashley, please?
So moved by Councillor Ossner and seconded by Councillor Rolleman that council approve the following minutes. The special budget council meeting minutes dated January 10th, 2022. The council meeting minutes dated January 17th, 2022. The special budget council meeting minutes dated January 27th, 2022, and Committee of the Whole meeting minutes dated February 7th, 2022. Councillor Rolleman?
Yes.
Councillor Ossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
So under 12, item 12, ladies and gentlemen, we have, council, we have the different correspondences. We've already dealt with 12.1, which is the aggregate one we've dealt with, the dam campaign. We have different ones. The land tribunal is an interesting one. Did anybody want to talk on that one or say anything about that one? Go ahead, Councillor Rolleman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Was there a motion that we're going to present for that? I know that we wanted to
Actually,
endorse.
there is a motion here.
Okay.
So did we Want to discuss it first, or do you want just the motion read?
If it's up to me, I think we should go forward with the motion. I think it's something important to support this, getting rid of the land tribunal eventually.
Okay, can I please have the motion, Ms. Sage?
So moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rolliman, that the correspondence received from the Mayor of the Town of Aurora regarding a motion to request the province to dissolve the Ontario Land Tribunal be received, and that the Township of North Dumfries supports the position undertaken by the Mayor of the Town of Aurora to seek the dissolution of the Ontario Land Tribunal, and that the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Attorney General, the MPPs for Waterloo Region, and the region of Waterloo and the area municipalities within Waterloo Region be advised of Township Council's position on this matter.
Will we put in the Association of Municipalities of Ontario as well, CEO McMillan?
So Madam Mayor, are you just sending it, is your request just to send it directly to AMO, or are you asking it to be distributed to the constituent municipalities of AMO?
Does AMO distribute that for us?
No, at a fee they will.
What are your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen? Leave as is?
Let's send it to AMO.
Okay, we'll send it to AMO as well. So would you please send that and also forward it to AMO?
Yeah, I will make that amendment to include AMO in that.
Thank you.
Councillor Rolliman?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. Next correspondence is from Sue Fowler in regards to the lifting of the vaccine passport. She is not in favor of this at all. She has real concerns. I think we can just receive it for information. I don't think we're at a place to make a comment on this. What are your thoughts, councillors? Just receive it for information? Okay, let's go ahead, please. Ms. Sage?
Moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rolliman that the correspondence received from Sue Fowler regarding the lifting of vaccine passports be received. Councillor Rolliman?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes, please.
That
Thank you.
carries.
Next, we have the Victoria Park washrooms. Any questions on it? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please?
Moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rolliman that Rec Report number 02-2022 be received and that Council approve the award of contract ND-RFP-01-2022 for construction and commissioning of Victoria Park washrooms to Brer Construction Limited in the amount of $204,935 plus HST, and that a project contingency of $20,854.10 net of HST rebate be established, and that the Mayor Clerk be authorized to execute any agreement or contracts to facilitate the contract for the Victoria Park washroom build to Brer Construction Limited. Councillor Rolliman?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you. And next we have the outdoor fitness equipment, and I want to go and play with it when it's up. Councillor Gillespie, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In speaking with some of the residents of Clyde, they're really not convinced that outdoor fitness equipment is what the park needs. They feel that what is really needed is like a basketball court or a pickleball court, something that will attract some of the younger people. They don't feel that fitness equipment is going to do that. It's kind of a singular thing, and they'd like something that would be for groups of people to enjoy. So I really think we should think before we do this. I don't think we should waste money if it's not going to be used. And I know that we're thinking that it would be for bike groups that come in, but that's really not satisfying the residents of Clyde either. So I really think we should think about this twice before we do it. The leisure studies report really didn't capture a lot of the people in Clyde or Brampton, I don't think, because they feel that it was really centered for air. And a lot of them didn't fill it out because of that reason.
Thank you, Councillor Rollman.
Madam Mayor, can we make a motion then to have that equipment moved from Ward 4 over to air somewhere? Because residents in air would love to have it. So if you have lots of parks available, maybe if they don't want it in Ward 4, then I'm sure we can find a use for it somewhere in the Village of Air.
Okay,
Well,
if we don't put this in Ward 4, could we put number one, what are the consequences if we turn this down? And if we turn it down, I think it should only be fair that something go to Clyde Park and we listen to the suggestions that Councillor Gillespie has requested. But first, let's see what happens out. How does this mess things up if we turn it down? You want to take a hit at this, CEO McNeely? Karen's chomping at the bit.
So, Madam Mayor, there are two separate items entwined in this report. There are two separate locations where outdoor equipment through a sole source is being pursued. One is at Cowan Park, the other is at Clyde Park. If council at this point in time does not want to move forward with the purchase of outdoor equipment for Clyde Park, then council would just strip that out of the resolution and Cowan Park would then stand on its own. The other option available to council is to identify a second park where it might be appropriate to consider the outdoor fitness equipment if Clyde is not the appropriate venue. Staff have not identified an alternative location. And the third option is to protect these funds for, I'll say notionally, Clyde Park. And as part of the Leisure Services Master Plan, let's see what comes out of the draft report. There may be some targeted projects for Clyde Park coming out of that. We have yet to see the draft report. And if it is something such as, let's just say a basketball court or multi-purpose court as an identification, what is set aside for the purchase of the outdoor equipment is not sufficient in number to develop that. But certainly it could be used as a base funding to grow an allocation to allow for that type of project to be pursued in the future.
I have Councillor Rollman and Councillor Austin.
Madam Mayor, I know that we identified the outdoor fitness equipment as something that was important. So if Councillor Gillespie feels that it's not important to the residents of Ward 4, there are other parks in air which has a larger population that would be interested in it. And I know that Schmidt Park or Douglas Park, maybe one of the new parks in the South End, who knows, but I think the equipment would be well used. I know the CEO and I discussed years ago about having it installed along that new linear trail that's being developed in the Bruce subdivision, or no, in the Legacy 4 subdivision. So perhaps there's a place for it there. In terms of reserving the funds for potential basketball courts or whatnot in Ward 4, maybe we need to do a little bit more study into what Ward 4 residents really want. So I'm hesitant about putting the money aside and just putting it in reserves when we could actually spend it now and get some immediate use out of it. So perhaps we should just move ahead with the equipment, put it somewhere in air, and then look at Ward 4 down the road.
Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I guess my first question is directed to Councillor Gillespie. If this is this a community decision, or is this something that a couple people have thought that wouldn't work for Ward 4? And the other thing is that I have no problem if the residents in Ward 4 feel that this isn't the type of thing that they want to spend money on, and they would like to go towards some sort of court that is a multi-use court. If that's what the preference of the community wants, then that is something that we should move forward. I think that regardless of putting this exercise equipment outdoor equipment there anyway. Regardless, we can still, with our lifestyle leisure plan, still work towards some sort of court for multi-purpose. But I think we should still put the equipment. I'd like to see the equipment go out to Ward 4. Is it difficult to move if it really doesn't fly there? Or like, I don't want to take it away from them before they even got it, you know, like
Before you go, Karen, before you and CEO McNeely, have you seen what it is, Councillor Gillespie?
Well, I'm not sure what exactly, that was the question that the residents had, what type of equipment it was. And I'm not really certain if has Karen picked out the actual style of equipment, or I'm not.
It's really interesting. And me being a disabled person, I would love to use it. So it's good for my age group, you know, the more mature in years type people.
Well,
and
it was my suggestion right at the start to put it there. So I'm kind of torn either way, but
I think we need an education session on this before we turn it down. Can we accept the Cowan Park one and defer the Ward 4 one, CEO McNeely, until there's been more communication with Ward 4 and with the councillors so they're aware of what it is?
So my only caution to members of council is, as with anything that we're experiencing right now, is supply management and delivery schedules. You know, obviously, the later we push this into 22, the potential that it won't be available to be installed in 22 does arise. So that's my only cautionary note to council, but there is no countdown clock if you're looking for one. We're not tied to delivery of a government program. Council controls the schedule, but my only caution to you is, you know, obviously, depending upon when a final decision is made, it may impair the ability for the actual delivery and installation in calendar year 22.
Okay, Karen, I'm going to ask you a couple of things. First off is, if we put it out, how easy is it to move if it's not successful, if they want it out?
So the equipment that we were going to purchase it's called in-ground mount. So similar to like a play structure where it would go in the ground and would be concrete. So it would be very difficult to move. However, there is another option for a surface mount, but then it gets more expensive because you're having to pour a concrete pad to put it on.
Right. Okay. Thank you. The other question is, do you have a picture of what it looks like that you could share on the screen with us?
Right this second?
Yeah.
I could get you one.
Yeah. Would you please? And Councillor McCreary will go next before you do that. Go ahead, Councillor McCreary.
I'm just wondering if maybe the solution is for Ward 4 to generously accept this equipment. Maybe they will like it, and we do the 2023 budget, or the new council will be doing the 2023 budget. We actually look at putting a multi-purpose court out there as well.
I don't disagree. I think that's a good solution, but I'd like Councillor Gillespie to see what it is. Or go ahead, Councillor McCreary.
I put my hand up by mistake. I'm done. Thanks.
Are you comfortable with that, Councillor McCreary, before Karen kills herself? Because she will forward you all the information on it after the meeting. If we put it in for 2022 and then we do the courts, I don't know whether courts are a good idea. I was thinking more along the lines of pickleball courts. Basketball courts is going to be the young kids. So all the bikers, bike riders and everything else are going to be using it. But the residents of Ward 4 may like a pickleball court.
I was wondering can you combine pickleball and basketball court in the same surface?
Maybe a possibility. Councillor Rolleman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And that's kind of what I was trying to get at a little bit earlier, was we're not really sure what the actual need is out there at Clyde Park. So maybe we should just put that, aside for now until we really know what they actually want out there, rather than just guessing. I mean, the leisure plan hasn't been returned yet. We haven't seen it yet. Hopefully some people from Ward 4 did actually fill it out, and we have some feedback out there. I know in the meetings that we've had with the consultants, they felt that they had a fairly good sampling across the entire township. So I don't want to be premature. And if if Pam feels that Councilor Gillespie feels a Ward 4 is not the appropriate place, maybe we have to, like you say, put it on the back burner and wait to install the one at Cowan Park and wait and see. But I also don't want to squander the opportunity to get this equipment. So if there truly is no interest in Clyde Park or in Branston, then let's look at alternative sites. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Roseville is a good site. I'm just saying, let's not squander it. Let's put it somewhere and let's use it.
In truth, I think Branston would love it. Councillor Austin.
Are we going to lose funding money if we don't do this?
So Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Oster, no, we were not successful in getting the grant. If you recall, last summer, we did apply for a grant for this outdoor fitness equipment in Clyde. We were not successful. So council's part of the approval of the 22 capital budget set aside municipal funds to acquire the outdoor fitness equipment for both Cowan Park and Clyde Park.
Okay, then if that's the case, why don't we put this report on hold and until we really know what we want to do with this equipment?
I think we want the Cowan Park one for sure. Councillor Gillespie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just out of inquiry, how much does it cost to put a basketball court in a pickleball court or whatever? Is it more than $38,500?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
We have a basketball court for the NDCC scheduled for next year in the forecast. And we're over $135,000 for just a basketball court. If we were to look at tennis and pickleball, if council will recall, we just awarded a contract for over $335,000 for a 3-cell tennis court. So they're very expensive insofar as you've got a significant granular bed below the asphalt surface, the asphalt itself. And then if we're talking about tennis or pickleball, typically we have a perimeter fencing that's 8 feet in height. And then the question of whether we're going to light it or not would come to another question, which just adds additional dollars to that overall expense.
See, Councillor Gillespie, what I'm afraid of is that you'll turn this down thinking it's an athlete's playground, and it's not. It's for somebody like you or I. And that's why, and I'm afraid you'll turn it down and find out that your constituents would have absolutely loved it.
Well, I don't want to turn it down then, but yeah, whatever.
Okay, so can we have the resolution then, please? And Karen, whether this goes through or not, would you please send her all the documentation on it? That would be wonderful. Thank you. All of us, send it to all of us. Thank you. Okay, can I have the resolution, please, Ms. Sage?
Certainly. So moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor McCreary that REC report number 03-2022 be received and that staff be authorized to single source the purchase of outdoor fitness equipment at Clyde Park in the maximum amount of $38,500 and Cowan Park in the amount of $36,000 net HST included to Parasite Furnishings and Outdoor Fitness Equipment, a division of JGW Machine Limited. Councillor Roman?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. We're going to vote on the motion, including Clyde Park now? Is that what we've decided to do?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm in favor.
Councillor Oster?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And when it goes up at Clyde Park, I want to be there. I want to try it out. Okay, thank you. Next is correspondence from Waterloo Region Public Health Emergency regarding the mosquito larvae surveillance. The motion, please, Ms. Sage.
Moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rollman that the correspondence received from the Region of Waterloo Public Health and Emergency Services requesting a letter of permission from the township authorizing access to municipal lands for the purposes of mosquito larval surveillance be received, and that council authorize staff to issue the enclosed letter of permission to the Region of Waterloo Public Health and Emergency Services on behalf of the township, authorizing access to the township lands for the purposes of mosquito larval surveillance and, if indicated, larval control measures. Councillor Rowland?
Yes.
Councillor Rossner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. And next we have communications correspondence. Is there anything there that anyone would like to pull? I'm just looking through them again. Oh, we already did this, the joint and several liability. We covered that last week. Thank you. Okay. Seeing none, can I have the motion, please? And you don't have to read them all, Ms. Sage.
So moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rollman. The council received the following items, 14.1.1 through to 14.1.17 as presented. Councillor Rollman,
Yes.
Councillor Rossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
thank you. And next is to receive the various minutes, please.
So moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Rollman. The council received for the purposes of information the following items: the Region of Waterloo minutes dated November 24th, 2021, December 15th, 2021, and December 16th, 2021, and the Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes dated December 16th, 2021. Councillor Rollman,
Yes.
Councillor Rossner,
Yes.
Councillor McCreary,
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
and Mayor Foxton.
Yes,
That carries.
all right. We're done closed, so we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. And don't need that. Okay, hang on a second.
We're at item 15, other business.
Yep. Yeah, any other business, councilors? Seeing none, I have the one, which was the communications from the Air News in discussion about how much Air News we do use. And anybody like to start the discussion on the email from the Air News from Helen? Okay, so I did get from Helen, and I think she sent it to all of us, maybe not, that okay. So we use anywhere between $7,000 and $10,000 a year for the Air News advertising. Now, if you want to increase it, we will have to increase the budget or find somewhere else. Is there anywhere else we'd like to increase it? Councillor Rollman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It seems to me that when I got on council back in 2014, we weren't using the Air News for a lot of things. And I know over the last 7 or 8 years, it seems to me that the numbers have actually increased. Does staff know the numbers for the last 6, 7 years of how our spending of the Air News has increased? And is Helen thinking only about ads in the Air newspaper, or is she including the printing side of the Air News where we do the business cards and that sort of thing? I'm just curious because it was my impression that we were supporting local and that we were using the Air News a fair amount. So I'm sort of surprised by this. I know at one point she was floating the idea that I think they used in Kitchener, in her newspaper in Kitchener, where for a set monthly fee, each councillor would take a different chance to write a little article, stories from Ward 1 or fitness equipment in Ward 4 or whatever, and just have a little blurb each month, and then included with that would be a series of ads, I guess, the regular public announcement type ads. So is that what Helen's getting at? I'm not sure, because I know she proposed that package a few years ago, but I'm not sure all the details, but it seems to me that we did increase our spending. So maybe staff could confirm that for us.
Actually, Christina did send that out. Christina Brooks did send us out, and it was a significant increase over the years since we've been, this council has been on it. I don't think they did include the business cards and everything else we do. It did include the cost that it did include on that, Councilor Roman.
Madam Mayor, we have one vendor account, and then we break it into advertising and promotion is one spend, and the other is typesetting, print material, which would include the business cards as an example. And obviously the sum of those two equates to what our annual general spend is, but they come from different accounts within the context of the operating budget. Madam Mayor, if I could, council approved business plans 2 weeks ago as part of the consideration of the 22 budget. And an element as one of the deliverables for 22 is the preparation of a communication strategy. And this is a much broader perspective rather than one single medium in terms of which to create advertising, promotion, or outreach. The communication strategy actually looks at the broad platform.
Oh, did I freeze?
Whether it be print, multimedia, social media, signage, door knockers, community surveys, or the like. And so the communication strategy looks at the holistic and then targets based on different types of events or deliverables, what would be the appropriate menu of media outlets to promote, advertise, and create outreach to our community, which would be the appropriate menu or mix. And from that would then develop a budget related to the broader communication strategy. The council would look at the full menu, which would include print media as one element in a broader strategy. That report and the draft strategy is targeted for May as part of the council schedule.
Okay, and that's great, CO McNeely, but you know what my concern is? If we lose the Air News, we'd be in real trouble. To me, to run an ad for election in the Air News cost me between $90 and $100. That same ad in the Cambridge Times cost me $1,200. If the Air News voted and the law says that we have to publicize the legal things through planning and building and everything in correspondence to that, and we had to only go with the KW Record or the Cambridge Times, we could quadruple this budget. What we spent this year could be 4 and 5 times as much because the same ad would cost so much more somewhere else. So again, and I hope we consider this because that would seriously impact us financially if we lost the Air News. It would be a huge impact because we have to, by law, put those ads in regards to planning, making notices and everything else. It doesn't fly just to go by Facebook or Twitter or what anything else. It has to be, it's regulated in the laws. So we need to seriously consider our role with the Air News. And again, we did say, and we did a motion that we would support the written word, the press. And it is an invaluable tool and it is an economic tool for North Dumfries because other places have to use, like I said, if it voted, we'd have to use the Cambridge Times, which is once a week. And if that didn't meet the mandates and meeting the requirement times to print, we'd have to go to the KW Record, which our ads would be lost in it or whatever. So, yeah, and I see what they're saying, but I also see that we need them to survive. We really do. Oh, it could hurt us, not just in so many ways. Councilor Roman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with your comments, and I think maybe we should look at that proposal again or revisit that proposal from the Air News about the monthly package that includes, a neighborhood kind of report or ward report combined with, the obligatory township advertising that we have to do, and maybe we can work on some sort of package that would give them a stable budget to work with and help them out, I guess, is what we're really coming down to. I know that social media has taken away a lot of business from newspapers in general. Lots of newspapers have folded. Even the Kitchener-Waterloo Record is quite slim on Tuesday, Wednesdays. It's like one page long. So, you know, I want to make sure that we are including the Air News in our advertising. It's, you know, I understand that a lot of people do look to social media for their information, but I don't want to lose that valuable resource that you mentioned. So we should look at some sort of package, perhaps.
And I asked Helen to send us that package again and a revised formation. I haven't heard back from her, but I have asked for that. But again, I think the report on communication, CO McNeely in May is an excellent idea. But I also want it to reflect if we didn't have the Air News, how much more costly would it be? Because we need to know our true options. If we do more with the Air News and even raise the amount we spend in advertising, instead of 10,000, 15,000, and it saves us from going to the Cambridge Times or the Record at 40 and 50,000, then we've got an amazing deal. So we need to know that information. We need to know it all. Any other comments? Seeing none, CEO McNeely, we wait for your report in May. Thank you. And now we are at we're at the confirmatory bylaw. Ms. Sage, are you still awake?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead. Could you read that, please?
Certainly. So moved by Councillor McCreary and seconded by Councillor Osner, that bylaw number 3303-22, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on February 22nd, 2022, be read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, signed, and sealed by the mayor and clerk. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Osner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
And the adjournment, please. And I have that it's 8:32.
So moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Rollman, that whereas business before this council meeting has been completed at 8:32 p.m. and be it resolved, this meeting adjourns and meets again on February 28th at 7 p.m. for a public planning meeting. Councillor Rollman?
Yes.
Councillor Osner?
Yes.
Councillor McCreary?
Yes.
Councillor Gillespie?
Yes.
And Mayor Foxton?
Yes.
That carries.
Well, thank you, everyone. It was a very good meeting. Karen, we're looking forward to you showing